Ina Garten is a celebrity chef whose home cooking, charisma, and mouth-watering dishes have won her millions of fans. But there's a tragic backstory of loss and suffering that impacts her life, hidden behind her brightness and generosity. Through this investigation, we will seek out the hidden side of Ina Garten, the barefoot Contessa, a lady whose tenacity, fortitude, and capacity to triumph over hardship have served as an inspiration to countless. Background and early years. Ina Rosenberg's Jewish family had 2 children. She was the youngest. She was born in Brooklyn, New York. Russia was the original home of her grandparents. Charles H. Rosenberg was an otologist and Florence was a nutritionist. They were married. A difficult childhood was endured by Ina as a result of her father's maltreatment. According to her, he cared for me but wanted me to fit his expectations, ignoring my identity despite my personal struggles. This statement is in reference to her childhood. Rosenberg was a scientific whiz at school and beyond, and her enthusiasm for the subject informed her cuisine. Her mother, an erudite opera buff, discouraged her from pursuing a career in cooking and instead encouraged her to get a degree in academia. Garten said that she received more characteristics from her father than her mother and characterized him as someone who was very good with people. Her parents were doubtful about her dreams of becoming a chef at first, but they came around. While Ina was a 15-year-old visiting her brother at Dartmouth College, she met her future husband, Jeffrey Garten. She went to Syracuse University for her undergraduate degree in economics and then went on to George Washington University for her MBA. After their 1968 Stamford wedding, Ina and Jeffrey relocated to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where she pursued her passion for cooking and hospitality while Jeffrey served in the Vietnam War. During this period, she also obtained her pilot's license. They went on a 4-month camping journey around Europe when Jeffrey finished his duty, and it was during their time in France that Ina developed a deep love for French food. She built her future company on the idea of outdoor markets and fresh vegetables, drawing inspiration from these images. Once Ina returned to the United States, she persisted in honing her French culinary skills by studying the works of Julia Child, Simone Beck, and Louisette Bertholle. When they relocated to Washington, D.C. in 1972, she started having dinner parties and would do it at least once a week. Garten started her career at the Federal Power Commission, while Jeffrey was working at the State Department and getting his Ph.D. from Johns Hopkins School for Advanced International Studies. A budget analyst, she subsequently joined the White House's Office of Management and Budget. While serving as VP, she drafted nuclear centrifuge policy documents for Presidents Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, and was also in charge of creating the national budget for nuclear energy. She bought Queen Anne-style homes on DuPont Circle in Kalorama, while honing her cooking and entertaining chops at the OM. Her subsequent business endeavor, the boutique food store The Barefoot Contessa, was financed by the earnings from previous real estate ventures. Barefoot Contessa was Garten's 400-square-foot grocery shop in West Hampton Beach, New York, which she opened in 1978 after leaving her government career. She expressed excitement, but ultimately decided it was not the path for her, as it did not reflect her values. Their typical model marriage had been stressful, but she discovered that by trying to improve individual independence for herself and her husband, their marriage became happier. After purchasing the shop, Ina moved it to New York and put in as much as 12 hours a day on occasion. The name of the business was inspired by an Ava Gardner film from 1954, which Garten found to be a perfect reflection of her own style, a combination of understated beauty and modernity. She expanded Barefoot Contessa from 400 to more than 3,000 square feet by 1985, when she relocated it to a bigger location in East Hampton. With a more stable clientele at her new spot, she was able to expand her gourmet offerings to include things like lobster salad, caviar, cheeses, and seasonal, locally grown veggies. Steven Spielberg was one of the famous patrons that helped bring Barefoot Contessa prominence. Garten sold the business to her staff in 1996 after 20 years, but she retained the building and established an office above it, while she took a hiatus from the culinary sector. While at Garten, I did research on the stock market and thought about fresh company ideas. After starting to sell her wares online, the Barefoot Contessa's website took off. Despite appearing in the film Something's Gotta Give in 2003, the business shuttered that year owing to lease problems. In the year 2024, Rag & Bone occupied the location. Achievements in the kitchen and the publishing industry. After 1999, Garten decided to pursue writing full-time and published the very successful Barefoot Contessa cookbook. The first run sold out so quickly that it had to be reprinted with more recipes from her shop. She has two critically acclaimed albums, Barefoot Contessa Parties, 2001, and Barefoot Contessa Family Style, 2002. The 2000 edition of the cookbook was nominated for a James Beard Award for Entertainment, while the 2002 edition of the same book was nominated for a Special Occasion Cookbook. In contrast to long-established chefs like Jacques Pepin, Garten was a relative newcomer to the scene. Thus, the nomination for Parties came as a surprise. Even while some reviewers have argued that the heavy reliance on images in Garten's cookbooks takes valuable real estate away from the instructions, the books continue to sell well, thanks to the beautiful photos that accompany each recipe. Many people have complimented her books, and even famous chefs like Ina Garten have said that they are among of their favorites. More than 14 million copies of Garten's 13 cookbooks have been sold by the year 2023. Even though her dishes are heavy in calories and fat, her fans love them, and The New Yorker even called her the current queen of tastefully used butterfat in America because of them. Garten has been the target of criticism despite her enormous success. Her 2010 cookbook Barefoot Contessa came under fire from the PCRM for advocating unhealthy diets full of fat, calories, and cholesterol. A discussion ensued on whether cookbook writers should be held accountable for encouraging better eating habits after they ranked it as one of the 5 worst cookbooks of the year because to its harmful ingredients. The Wall Street Journal's Eric Felton, meanwhile, backed Garten, saying that the criticism was really directed at recipes that go beyond lentils and highlight the conflict between unhealthy eating and splurge, a profession in television and future growth. After finding success with her publications and gatherings, Garten debuted her program on the Food Network in 2002. In 2000, they tried collaborating with Martha Stewart's production firm, but the big teams and strict formats made it impossible for the partnership to function. Pacific, a London-based company famous for Nigella Lawson, offered a more laid-back environment with a smaller workforce, so she agreed. Because of this, Barefoot Contessa was able to make a triumphant 2002 debut. About 1 million people watched each episode of the program that featured Garten, her husband Jeffrey, and friends. In 2005, it received a Daytime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Service Program and increased the Food Network's viewership. After receiving their second round of Emmy nominations in 2009 for Outstanding Culinary Program and Best Culinary Host, Garten finally took home the hardware that year. After the success of Barefoot Contessa at home, she signed a 3-year contract with the Food Network and promised to release 2 further volumes. According to reports, this deal was the most lucrative one for a cookbook author back then. Garten chose to keep her life simple despite many offers to enhance her brand with a magazine, furniture line, cookware, and stores akin to Martha Stewart's empire. As a hobby, Ina created Barefoot Contessa, Go-To Dinners, a cookbook that went on to sell 800,000 copies in 2022 and became a New York Times bestseller in 2023. Be My Guest. Garten's program that airs on Discovery and the Food Network features celebrity house guests. With her business partner Frank Newold, she got back into cooking in 2006 when they released Barefoot Contessa Pantry, a collection of pre-packaged foods made in partnership with Stonewall Kitchen. This line makes Garten's delicious, easy-to-follow home-cooked recipes more widely available. With items like mango chutney, lemon curd, maple oatmeal scones, and coconut cupcakes, the Barefoot Contessa Pantry evokes the feeling of a home culinary. Contributions and Diversification. Garten was the author of many acclaimed cookbooks, including Barefoot in Paris, and she also had her own successful company. She further expanded her impact with her contributions to the Oprah magazine, where she offered advice on party planning, cooking, and hostessing cookouts. Garten became well known as an authority on all things related to home and hospitality via her popular column Ask the Barefoot Contessa, which she contributed to until 2011. In an effort to broaden her fan base and introduce them to her culinary philosophy, Garten released a limited edition line of note cards and diaries. Her conviction in the pleasure of sharing recipes and making memories with loved ones was represented in these goods, which reinforced the feeling of community she had developed with her audience. She has also served as an introduction for several other authors in the culinary field, such as Rory Travato's Dishing with Style and Kathleen King's Tate's Bake Shop cookbook. Garten showed her ambition to create a healthy food preparation system and help other people do the same by lending her assistance to other cooks. Renowned cuisine and best-selling items. This lemon roast chicken with croutons recipe from Best American Recipes, 2005-2006, is one of Garten's most famous recipes. Gourmets and amateur chefs alike raved about this meal because of how easy it was to make and how good it was. Evidence that she provides simple but delicious meals is another beloved dish that was included in today's kitchen cookbook, the favorite recipes from the popular TV show, The Today Show. When Garten's Thanksgiving dishes started showing up on Google's homepage in 2010, she instantly became famous. Because of this, nobody saw how she changed the face of contemporary cookery and holiday entertaining. Adopting new media and partnerships. Garten began using digital media in June 2012 when she started a Facebook page where she shared recipes and personal stories. The reaction was so good that the account gained over 100,000 followers in only 3 weeks. Her ability to use social media's developments to interact with fans and those interested in cuisine was on full display in her quick ascent. Goodnight Bubala is a children's picture book that Garten co-wrote with Cheryl Haft in 2019 and features her famous potato lotus dish. Working together, they proved Garten's commitment to preserving her beloved recipes for centuries to come and sharing the pleasure of cooking with new generations. Autobiography and private life. Many people in the culinary arts have been inspired by Ina Garten's many actions, which have brought her fame in the world of gastronomy. Garten said that her decision to forego motherhood was influenced by her childhood in an interview she gave to BBC News in 2023. She went on to say, "It was not something I wanted to repeat," explaining that her need for human connection led her to begin a business where she could bring people together over shared meals. "I often find myself looking back and realizing that many of my choices stem from my childhood. I believe that was the driving force behind them." Her spouse, Jeffrey Garten, is also very accomplished in both academics and administration. When President Clinton was in office, he served from 1993 to 1995 in the role of Undersecretary of Commerce for International Trade. Jeffrey transitioned from politics to academia after serving as Dean of Yale University's School of Management from 1995 to 2005. Both management education and the careers of aspiring corporate executives owe a great debt to him. In his spare time, Jeffrey is a regular on Ina's culinary reality program, where he gives suggestions and samples the food that Ina prepares. Their genuine depiction of their relationship and shared passion for people and cuisine has won over viewers with their charming banter and on-screen chemistry. As a reflection of their passion for art, cuisine, and creativity, the Gartens are a physically active family who often travel between their Manhattan and East Hampton homes and an apartment in Paris. Many political contenders have received donations from Jeffrey, who is a registered Democrat. These include Barack Obama, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and John Kerry. Despite her involvement in the political party, Ina seldom discusses politics in public. "I think I would not make people change their minds," she said in an interview from 2024 when asked about political talks. Along with her culinary career, Ina also serves on East Hampton's Design Review Board, where she ensures that architects' plans do not compromise the village's historic integrity or aesthetic appeal. Be Ready When Luck Happens, her memoir, is now in production and is scheduled for publication in October 2024, triumphing over adversity and developing one's potential. How did Garten bravely overcome the terrible obstacles she encountered? Ina Garten recalled her upbringing as one characterized by authoritarian parenting and demanding obedience from all members of the household, particularly her father. Her father's view that parenting was not about being loved ran against to Ina's developing desire for autonomy, in contrast to the nurturing parenting styles of today. Her dread of him brought up memories of times she felt physically threatened, causing her to seek refuge in her bedroom. Despite her best intentions, Ina's mother had difficulty forming meaningful relationships and, in an effort to keep her personal area under control, barred her from helping out in the kitchen. Since Ina isolated herself as a youngster, she had a lonely upbringing. However, she and her father were able to reconcile when her father apologized in his own unique manner. In her whole life, her mother never admitted guilt. In retrospect, Ina acknowledged that she lacked the confidence to assert herself and was afraid of following in her parents' footsteps. She met Jeffrey, whose warmth and unfaltering support showed her a way out of her self-critical existence, and she was determined to change her ways. Even though they were geographically separated while Jeffrey was away, his optimistic outlook and constant support allowed Ina to follow her dreams. Thanks to the strength of their bond, which they maintained by supporting one another, they were able to make the difficult decision not to have children and pursue their passions. Jeffrey encouraged an atmosphere of mutual respect and cooperation by putting Ina's goals ahead of his own at all times. Ina Garten, who has built her career on her cookbooks, spoke up about a time she was temporarily separated from her husband Jeffrey in one of her books. Thinking back on the 1970s, she recalled how difficult it was to break the mold of the stereotypical husband-wife relationship and form a more collaborative one. At first, Ina found it annoying that Jeffrey assumed she would be in charge of the kitchen while he dealt with the money. She made it clear that she required his attention to fix the imbalance, which was a smart move that paid off for them both in the end. Ina went back to Washington after her first summer working at the Barefoot Contessa shop, while Jeffrey went on a 3-month foreign tour with the State Department. Each partner had the opportunity for introspection and development during their separation, which helped them reevaluate their respective responsibilities and the level of autonomy they desired from their partnership. Before they reorganized their relationship into a partnership centered on collaboration and mutual regard instead of conventional norms, Jeffrey had a hard time going on lengthy vacations as a husband. Jeffrey always encouraged Ina's goals and brought a cooperative approach to dispute resolution, according to Ina, who characterized their relationship as peaceful. It was hard to dispute with him because of this strategy. Jeffrey had previously pushed Ina to find her life's purpose, and this made her think back to a turning point in their marriage. A light bulb went out for Ina when he said that she couldn't be happy until she knew where she was going. Up until that point, she had married an exceptional guy, and that had been her main objective. Ina is eternally thankful to Jeffrey for changing her life's trajectory when he first advised her to pursue anything on her own, conquer the TV world. When asked about her sudden ascent to fame, Ina said she could never have imagined herself being on television. "I couldn't understand why anyone would want to watch me," she pointed out. Eileen, a positive role model from the Food Network, encouraged Ina to pursue the program since she believed in her potential. "For over a year I kept refusing, thinking she misunderstood my reluctance. I had no interest in being on television. But after watching an Australian show that a friend recommended, I appreciated the production and realized I didn't need to be like Nigella Lawson. I just needed to be myself." When Jennifer Garner wrote to Ina to express her wish to be on the program, it was a tough but joyful moment for Ina. It wasn't until later that Ina realized it was the renowned actress. Nevertheless, Ina contacted Garner and worked with him on a piece when they were both shooting in Los Angeles. Coincidentally, Ina was asked to celebrate Jennifer's 40th birthday at her house. The party was laid back and enjoyable, with 40 ladies dressed in sweatpants and ponytails, making everyone feel at ease. Later on, Ina loved Jennifer's presence on her program because she admired Garner's sense of humor and the way she playfully referenced Barefoot Contessa in her own culinary films. The narrative of Ina Garten, who rose from obscurity to become a world-renowned chef, exemplifies the power of dedication and perseverance. In spite of facing many personal and professional obstacles, Julia Child has become an iconic character in contemporary cuisine because to her unwavering commitment to her work, her mutually supportive collaboration with Jeffrey, and her talent for bringing people together over shared culinary experiences. A story of perseverance, originality, and the transformative impact of pursuing one's dreams, her path is an inspiration.